All right, let's get into it. We are going to take apart a song that feels as quiet as a history lecture, but somehow hits like an absolute sledgehammer. I'm talking about Bob Dylan's With God on Our Side. It is a true masterclass in protest music, and today we're going to figure out exactly how it ticks. And that brings us to the central puzzle of this song, right? There are no angry power chords, no one is shouting into the microphone. It's just this calm, almost methodical voice. So the question is, how does it manage to be one of the most devastating critiques of war and nationalism ever written? That's the mystery we are here to solve. You know, when you really listen to the song, you feel this tension almost immediately. On the surface, what you're hearing sounds calm. It's almost a reflective folk tune. But underneath all that, what you feel is this growing sense of unease, this deep discomfort. And that gap right there between what you hear and what you feel, that's where the song's genius really lives. So our first stop on this journey is the song's form itself. You see, the critique is so powerful not in spite of its quietness, but actually because of it. This is what you'd call irony without shouting. See, this isn't just some message that's been set to music. The music is a huge part of the message. Dylan's calm delivery, it perfectly mirrors the ordinary, everyday way that we're taught what to believe. The traditional folk sound makes it feel like some old, shared truth. And the argument? Well, it doesn't just explode at you, it builds, slowly, verse by verse, which makes it so much more unsettling. So now, let's move on to the lyrics and see how Dylan actually builds this thing. The song isn't just about history. It's about how history gets turned into a national myth. You know, a story that we tell ourselves. It's a story about remembering, for sure, but also, and this is crucial, it's about what we choose to forget. And this really highlights a key difference. On the one hand, you have actual scholarly history. It's messy, it's full of complexity, it's always being revised. But then you have public memory, the stories a nation tells itself. And that's different. It simplifies events, it selects only the convenient parts, and then it stamps a really clear moral on top. We were the good guys. So the song takes over a century of American conflict and compresses it into just a few verses. Now, this is not a mistake. It's a deliberate strategy. It mirrors exactly how public memory works. It reduces these vast, often traumatic events down to a simple, heroic timeline. And this brings us to a really important idea called public memory. It's not just about what happened. It's the official story a nation crafts about itself. A story designed to justify its actions and make them feel righteous and necessary. And that public memory, it is fueled by something we can call selective innocence. And this is the core problem the song is trying to expose. This habit of remembering our own virtue in crystal clear, high definition, while turning the volume way, way down on our own violence. Okay, so how does Dylan pull the curtain back on all this? Well, the engine of the entire song, the one mechanism that makes it all work, is that relentlessly repeated refrain. When you first hear it, it lands as this familiar piece of our national myth. You know, the cavalry, the frontier, and this automatic assumption of divine approval. It honestly sounds like something straight out of a history textbook. But then, the song moves to the Cold War, and suddenly that exact same phrase feels heavier. It's not just history anymore. It's about a hatred that's been taught, that's been inherited, and it's all been justified by that same divine approval. That initial comfort you felt, it starts to curdle. And then, finally, the song confronts us with the real moral cost of it all. The justification is still there, but now it's paired with this blunt refusal to even count the dead. And at this point, that refrain, it becomes almost unbearable to hear. And right here, this is the aha moment of the whole thing. The four words of the refrain, with God on our side, they never change, not once. But by the end of the song, their meaning has been completely turned on its head. It starts as this comforting statement of faith and ends as a chilling indictment of moral blindness. So what is this song really about? Well, it's not just critiquing a few wars. It's critiquing the entire system, the whole grammar, if you will, that makes war feel justified to us in the first place. And this is done through something scholars call civil religion. That's what happens when national identity gets all tangled up with sacred language. All of a sudden, political decisions aren't just policies anymore. They're part of some divine destiny, and that makes them very, very hard to question. A key part of this whole process is the manufacturing of enemies. And it's basically a three-step process. First, you simplify everything down to a simple good versus evil. Second, you pass that hatred down through the generations, in stories, in schools. And third, you create the sense of belonging that's based on a shared fear of the other. And what this all allows for is something we can call moral outsourcing. It's where people basically transfer their personal ethical responsibility to some higher power, the nation, history, God, whatever. It lets them participate in national violence without having to feel personally cruel or responsible for it. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this is all very interesting, but it's about the 1960s. Well, the song's critique is maybe more relevant now than it ever has been. Let's see how this whole thing plays out in our current digital age. Back then, this kind of rhetoric was spread through speeches and textbooks. Pretty straightforward. Today, it's spread through memes and algorithms. The delivery system has completely changed, but the underlying logic? It is exactly the same. And if anything, our technology just amplifies it. Algorithmic repetition hammers home the same message over and over, just like Dylan's refrain. Our feeds become this kind of platform memory, showing us only the history that confirms our side is the right one. And our online identity becomes completely tied to signaling that we believe all the correct things. So the crucial point is this. Dylan's song is absolutely timeless because it serves as a tool. It's a defense mechanism against any rhetoric, it doesn't matter what side it comes from, that offers you the easy comfort of certainty instead of the hard work of actual scrutiny. And that leaves us with one last, pretty provocative question. In an age of infinite information, filter bubbles, and AI-driven narratives, the power to claim you have the moral high ground is more fragmented and chaotic than ever. So the question is, who, or maybe what, decides who has God on their side now?